Welcome to Grow Your Strength. We're going to start off today with some breathing. And thank you for joining. Take your time to find yourself into a comfortable breathing position. It could be face up, face down, perhaps like a child's pose. And we'll just take some time to adjust the posture through the neck and shoulders, perhaps through the low back and hips, and down into the legs and arms. Settle in and then focus on a nice deep inhale through your nose if you can, and an exhale as well through the nose. Just letting things soften and relax as you exhale. Nice deep inhale. Little pause at the top sometimes is a good idea, just to kind of sense that full deep inhale and then let it go. Your next breath cycle, we're going to take it into reverse tabletop. So you just slowly bring yourself to taking the feet off the floor, the knees float over the hips. You can take some time to take your fingertips to the roof and then anchor your shoulder blades and shoulders to the floor. Take a moment to reconnect with the breath that you had going previously, and then start to slowly move the opposite arm and leg on diagonals with the focus on that continued breath and holding the posture through your torso. So if you feel your back wanting to lift off, don't go quite so far. Play with the width of your hands, and also consider turning and looking at your fingertips, just letting your head gently roll side to side. When you've had enough of a work, where you feel you've had done enough, pull your knees in. And then I just like to roll side to side and just reset, and then reset and go again. Enough of a challenge, I think, is what I was trying to say. Just, you want to work. You don't want to go too far where you feel like, I shouldn't have done that. But just breathe. Excellent. After this one, we'll turn to the side and we'll start to work on the rib grabs. So you stack your knees and feet, supporting your head with a cushion if you need that support. Make sure your bottom shoulder is tucked out, so you're not just compressing your shoulder. Your top arm wraps around your rib cage, and you're just rotating away from your straight arm. This is another one where you can just take a little bit of time to refocus on the breathing as you roll forward. You could inhale and roll away. Exhale. Take about 6 slow resets with that. The weight of the head is supported, so it's a nice time to get a little bit more movement through the neck. And before we switch sides, after your 6th, and take that top arm off and spread the fingers and just circle the arm around, letting the weight of the arm help to open up your shoulder. I'm just looking at my fingertips and letting my head roll gently. And reversing the direction for a couple of circles, and then you can reset on the other side. before we went on the film, we were talking about some of the things about getting older that aren't so fun. And I just thought of another one. So we mentioned, well, all the symptoms of menopause, of course, varicose veins, urinary incontinence. It just doesn't sound very good, right? There's just all these things. And then like hands, like, have you guys noticed any changes in your hands? So I've been always sort of emphasizing opening the fingers and lengthening the hands. And I've kind of, noticed that when I look at my hands, I feel like I've turned into my mother. May she rest in peace. But it's just the human condition, and we're stronger in it together, sharing this kind of stuff, I think. After your 6 resets on this side, let's take the top arm and slowly rotate it around. Thankfully, we can talk about these things more openly, and there's a lot more science and help available to us to deal with this. And movement is the foundation of health, and so keeping things moving is key to our longevity. There's probably a better word for that. Okay, in this program, I go to sitting ankle work. So it's a little different, just sitting upright, taking some time to extend the legs out, support your back by putting your hands at your sides. Some folks might feel better with a little elevation in the hips, but we're not going to be here for too long. I'm just taking some time to point my toes and then pull my toes to the shin. So find your end range, open up the toes, spread them. After about 6 or so, try the ankle inversion and eversion. You can see how I went to try to keep my legs still and get the motion coming just from my ankles. And then taking it into some circles. It's really hard to just isolate the ankle, but do try. And then from here, we'll bend the knees and allow the hips to fall side to side as you rotate your legs. The bottom leg here is in external rotation, this top leg in internal rotation through the hips. So kind of feel that out side to side a few times. You can turn and look the opposite way. I just slow it down as I get to my end range and just, okay, that feels okay to just go that little bit more. And then we'll take the weight into a full 90-90 position. I've adjusted my hips. I've got a nice long torso, and I'm just going to pulse my weight forward, changing the angle of the torso a few times. Then coming back upright, try to extend the front leg out straight. This is going to change how much you can bend into your hip, okay, because you're going to feel it a lot more through your hamstring. If we turn the torso out, right, we bias different positions of our hip stretch. So be careful with this. With the leg extended out, I know personally I feel a lot more tension through my hip and hamstring. So I'm just suggesting that you give this a little turn and try some different positions and make, okay, that's that's where you're at. And then before we switch sides, we'll pop down to the elbow and we'll check this back leg internal rotation. So about 5 times, give yourself an opportunity to try to internally rotate the hip, and be mindful that you're not getting the rotation by moving the body, right? So even if you just have a small amount of lift off the floor, go to where you can control and then lower back down. One thing to be proud of is that we're working on our hip internal rotation. It's got a lot of benefits. All right, so hands free if you can, over to the other side. First, we did the pulses with the knee bent. Here we go. And then trying to extend that front leg, getting tall, and be careful, but just turn and work in these different angles. Creating space and some lengthening in the tissues that are tight in and around the pelvis and hips. Create workspace is going to help with our overall movement. Okay, then down to the elbow, or yeah, elbow, and internally rotate up. Find that end range. Nice work. All righty, so we transition from here to cat-cow. So we'll come on to hands and knees. Give yourself some slow movements from your low back right through your neck. So I'm slowly rounding my back in the mid back now and dropping my head down, pushing the floor away. And for extension, I can start in my low back again and just slowly drop my front side towards the floor. Go through the shoulder blade area, dropping the chest and working the shoulder blades together a little bit. And then I'm gently looking up. I'll go one more cycle myself. Just take your time with this. Finding the middle ground of flexion and extension is your neutral back. So you want to find the middle, tuck your back toes. We're going to go into a bear hold, float the knees off the floor, and just think about how you're distributing the weight through your hands. Use your fingers, maybe weight shift forward. Make sure the knuckles are flat. Lengthen those fingers I talked about. Can you breathe in and out through your nose here, stabilizing through your shoulders? After 3 to 5 breaths, take a moment and just deload the wrists. And then let's go ahead and either do another bear or take it back into a high arm plank. So return to neutral, bear again, or step back into your high arm plank, activating your hip muscles a little bit. Ooh, you guys all look good. Return to the breath. Moving on from there, we'll take it into hip cars from all fours. So finding neutral again, I tuck my back toes gently, slowly take one knee off, and I'm tracing today just one circle each way. Could you hear my voice change there? Because I'm working hard to stabilize my weight equally between my hands and not move into my back. This is a slow circle. I'm hovering. This is a hip mobility drill, kind of teaching my brain where my hip will go. But hey, it's also a big core exercise. Push the floor away, keep the back nice and neutral. So check that your head hasn't dropped down. Whew, what about that breathing? So I'm just finishing one side to give you an indication of how slow I'm going. I'm going to shake out my wrists again and switch sides. And if you come out of this early, you can either do more circles or go back to a bear and plank hold. Here we go, second side. Sheila's working hard. Breathe. Switching directions. Finish strong, push that floor away. Stay focused. Just improved your hip mobility. Okay, you choose one bear or one plank, and then we'll come to standing. So take your time. What you're going to do, you're going to step back to a plank or hold the bear. Drive that breath in and out through your nose, nice and deep. That's great. After you've done your hold, we'll come up to standing and just make sure that you've cleared your space. Feel free to grab some water. I'm going to start by weight shifting forward and back into my feet. Just taking a quick glance down to make sure my feet are quite straight, so I'm not sort of stepping back with the back foot not straight. And then find a place where you can pause with a staggered stance. Cross the arms over the chest, and here we're rotating from the hips up, working on that posture through the upper back and neck. Try to keep the hips square to the wall in front of you. Turning and looking at something, so being a little curious with your eyes might get you a bit more rotation through your neck. A little bit of balance going on here today. And then before we switch the front foot, let's just take a few where you take the arms overhead, open up those fingers, and then paint the rainbow. So you're shortening one side waist and lengthening through the other side. Nice big sweep. Feels good. Okay, let's switch feet and just take a few forward and back steps, connecting with the feet. Good, and then find your place. We'll repeat the same. So hips square. Maybe you can exhale as you turn back. Arms overhead. Taking the time to do these movements is really going to help when we get into bigger movements and loading. So I always have to remind myself to be patient. I'm going to do hip cars and then move on. So hip cars, I'm going to take one knee up to about 90 degrees or less if it feels pinchy, and then start to sweep the foot across the midline and then out a couple times. And then let's try the same with the knee at around 2 o'clock. So bring it out and see how that feels. A little easier if you drop the leg down. Okay, so if you feel pinchy in your hip. And then one time we'll sweep this all the way around. So you might want to take your hands out to the side or forward. If you're having trouble with your balance, you can make a light fist and see if that helps. Or hands in front. And just work the single leg balance position as you mobilize this hip all the way around to where you can trace. Okay, using a little balance support is a good idea. You could go over to a piece of furniture or tip a roller up. So first off, 90 degrees or less, some sweeps. Does this side feel any different than the other? Maybe you have a difference. Working on that with these kind of moves. And then when you're ready, breathe, take that all the way around. Rewind. Awesome. Body weight squats, we'll do 5. Find a foot position, hip width or wider, open up those toes, take a nice strong breath in. Exhale as you come up. Make sure everything's feeling okay before you progress. So if something feels off, you could take a roller, take some time to do your own stretches through your hip. Just listen to the body. Okay, take the feet a little wider and we'll sit over side to side, getting a stretch through the inner thigh. Come back up, over to the other side. Make sure you get those hips back. We do have a lateral lunge coming up. So that's going to be a wake-up call for the inner thighs. And then let's take it to some hinges. So sit the hips back, slide the hands down the thighs, and then open up the shoulders at the top. We'll do another 5 of these. And after your fifth one, we're going to do one more balance exercise, and that's for lateral hip stability. So you're going to step out to the side and then come to a kickstand. So as you come up into the kickstand, you can either tap your toe down or bring your toe off the floor. Ideally, you're looking for this. This is lateral hip stability. So you want to come up and organize yourself so that you're stable, stopping the momentum of the side step back. Good. 3 to 5. This is feeling easy, then take a moment to blink or close your eyes in this balanced position. Switching sides. Take that moment. Practice. All of this is just practice, teaching our brains how to move better. Okay, so here's the set. We start with a lateral step and press. And so you're going to take a weight that you know you can press overhead. So it's not a max weight, right? Something that will work. We'll go 6 repetitions. So the first, I've got the weight in the right hand. I'm going to step out with the left into that lateral step, come back up, and then press overhead. So it's sort of a 2-part. 6, and the step and press would be considered 1. Okay? Everybody's got a good start to this. As you press overhead, make sure this is feeling okay on the shoulder. Good. Modifying the rep range based on how you're feeling and the weight you've chosen. It's great. Okay, other side. Step out, back to standing, press. Feel your mood getting better? Not saying you were in a bad mood, but we did start the class off kind of a bit of a downer about women and aging. 3. I'll keep our sense of humor about it. Okay, calf raises are next. Grab a small ball if you have one. Feet are straight, looking for 6 to 10 reps. Why are we doing this? Remind yourself that this is really great to build up the smaller muscles in the feet. If you want to add breath, you can exhale as you lift the heels. Trying to connect with all your toes, not too scrunchy. So take some time to lengthen them and connect with the mat. Exhale, a little gentle squeeze of the ball. Control down. Using balance support if you need it. This is one of those ones that comes quite well in time. So you get a little bit more control with just a bit of work. You guys have that? Just check what's coming up. Bent over row and then a band pull. So for the bent over row, got a couple options. If you have dumbbells, you can sit yourself into a hinge position and then row the elbows to the sides, making sure the back feels okay. If it doesn't, you can stand up and reset, all right? And then the other option, if you don't have dumbbells that give you enough resistance for that, use a stretchy band and step in the middle, walk your hands down the band and pull. I was just watching a little email video this morning from a trainer in the States named Eric Cressy, and he trains a lot of baseball players. And he was making the point that we just want to bring the elbows to the side. We don't want to bring the elbows up, up, up. Okay, so you got to adjust your posture so that you have ability to pinch the shoulder blades and finish the row at the sides. Okay, so that's for a couple of reasons through the front of the shoulder and the scapula. The last exercise in this set, we take a stretchy band, we continue to work on shoulder posture, palms up, random band pulls, any angle. Let's do 12 pulls or so. You could even go up to 20 if you felt like your band was quite light and you didn't get any feeling of work with what you were doing at 12. So I'm standing with good posture through my feet. My knees are not hyperextended. I'm breathing and I'm just opening up underneath the armpits, getting some tone between the shoulder blades. Don't you love it? All right, so finish those off and then we'll go through this set again. Lateral step to press is next. Okay, clear my space. How did that weight feel on the shoulder and the presses? Whoops, okay. Step, stand, press. Here we go. Up to 6 per side. How can you make this set just a little bit better? Attention to your breath. Good posture as you press. Good. Everybody looks great this morning. Yeah. Great. Back to the calf raises. How did they feel? 6 to 10. Here's tipping my roller up. If you want to use light balance support. Exhale, up into the toes. Maybe less support. Be happy with those. Bent over row. Okay, so remember what I said about the elbows. Here would be too far, right? I'm bringing my elbows up too far. Here's where I want you to finish, feeling some connection through your shoulder blades. Straight arms, shoulder blades come apart a little bit. You get a little stretch, and then a row. So I'm definitely feeling like I'm moving my shoulder blades together through my back, right into the middle of the spine. That looks great, gals. Got it. Okay, light band, another 12 to 20 pulls, and then we're going to move on. Look straight ahead. Check the tension isn't torquing your elbow or your wrist or your neck. You're not up here in a shrug. Just enjoy the different angles. Kind of get to that point where it's like, yeah, I'm tired now. I feel a little fatigue there. So that's good. Okay, so we're going to the floor for either bridge or single leg bridge. So clear space. Lying on your back. Rep range will be 10 doubles or 5 singles. I'll show the doubles first. Just aligning the posture, taking some time to lift the hips up, activating the hip muscles, coming back down, connecting through your feet. For the single leg, everything's the same, but one foot's off the floor. You don't want the hips to drop. I like to hang on to my thigh and my rib cage so that I come up nice and even. Second exercise is a get up to a high bridge. I'm going to show this without weight. If you have been doing get ups with weight and you like to grab a weight, you're going to take the weight into the right hand and bend the right knee. The setup for the get up looks like this. I've got one arm and leg out in a bit of a snow angel position. I'm making sure I don't have a big arch in my back, so I'm set through my torso. My shoulders nice and connected. I take a breath and roll onto my elbow. Make sure you're not shrugged, so no sad shoulders. Press the hand, and this is the high bridge. You bring the hand to a place where you know you're going to be able to bridge up. I'm just gently looking at gaze at the top hand. Then I come back down to my hip, and then make sure my shoulder's not shrugged, back down to my elbow, and then I roll away to the floor. There usually is a little bit of movement, like you're traveling. That's okay. Second one, then we'll switch sides. So roll to the elbow. I keep my eye on my top hand. As I come up to this tall sitting position, I'm just adjusting my hand a wee bit. And then I come up into the high bridge. And I slowly come down to the hip, elbow, and back down to the floor. We'll switch sides. Quick reminder, this is my favorite exercise. So if you don't love it already, it might become yours over time. It is a practice. There's no perfect get up. So you get into position, left arm up, left foot, knee bent, foot on the floor. You push into this foot as you roll to the elbow. Looks great. We never want to lose the ability to get up and down from the floor. So it's got some rolling pattern, some shoulder stability. As we progress the get up to standing, we'll be going into a lunge pattern. So lots going on. Like the attention to detail and the speed being not too fast. Love it. Plank variations to a push-up and or a lower. So if you've got your variation, go ahead and do it. Spread the fingers, anchor those hands. Here's your high arm plank. Maybe this is where you're at. You could try a mini push-up. You could put a pillow under your front side and slowly lower down to the pillow, bending your knees to come up. If you have any pain in your wrists, take it to a wall or piece of furniture and go up. Okay, shake out the wrists. Holding yourself in a plank position is 55% of body weight. So you want to make sure that you're aware of that. The lowering phase is how we get strong. Okay, so you can come slowly down, put that pillow there. That's as far as you go, and then you could try to push up. So you can play with the angles of what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to take us up to standing now and work on some hip hinging. And I'll start with a body weight, a hinge. If we did this in the warm-up, so hips go back and then standing up, that's what I want you to do. But if you can, I'd like you to load it so you can prime your movement a few times and then decide if you've got a kettlebell or dumbbells to do the hip hinge. The hips go back. The weight slides down to your knees or just below, and then you come back up. If you have dumbbells, you can rotate your palms open at the top. That's always a nice variation. Inhale as your hips go back, and then exhale as you come up, opening up. Good, I'm just watching. You guys all look great. At the top, I like that opportunity to find the shoulder blades, whether you have a kettlebell or you're opening with a couple of dumbbells. I want to say 6 to 10 reps. These aren't max weights, but every one that you do, just be really thoughtful in through what's going on. Nice and even back with your hips. Connect, come back up. I'm going to take us into 2 30-second cardio moves, which would be drop squats to start. So with the drop squat, just catch yourself. If you have sort of knees that aren't too happy, then just do this. Just bounce and get some elasticity through your knees. Just try to stay out of pain. You can drop like the floor falls, or you can add the jump and drop. Okay, so feel free to do any of those versions. We'll go for another 20 seconds. That was a long 30 seconds. Ooh, coach's liberties. Good. 10 more seconds. And the second one I'm going to do is our extension reaches. I'm a big fan of these. Okay, so sit back and then get those arms back and then sweep them through and up to the roof. Lift your heels if you can, and then sweep back down. You can always add a drop in this move where you're up, 3, 2, 1, and drop. So you could do that, or you could just go through the motion slowly, using those strong feet and coming back down. 10 more seconds. Okay, nice job. Let's go through this again. So catch your breath. First one is our single leg bridge, and then the get up to the high bridge. Double bridge if you prefer. Gift your hips. Ooh, it's that time of year again. So holiday time. Up. Activate the hip muscles. Come down with the hips. Release. Connect through your feet or your foot if you're on a single leg. Some of you might want to take weight to the get up to high bridge. I'm going to stick with body weight. Making a light fist, anchoring in my shoulder. My right arm is up, my right knee is bent, foot is planted on the floor. The angle that you have ultimately just becomes something that's quite natural. But when you're learning, you're trying to find the angle that works best so that when you roll up, it feels pretty good on your shoulder, right? If my angle was too narrow, this would be really awkward. So if it feels awkward, play with that. Bring your arm and leg even out just a little bit more. No awkward get-ups. Excellent job. 2 of these per side. Love what I'm seeing. And then we go into the plank and push-up variation. I'm going to get a pillow to show the lower into the pillow, or you're planking. Hands, connect the hands, make sure the knuckles aren't tented. Come into your high arm plank, tighten up the hips a little, and pulling yourself down slowly to the pillow. Softens the landing if you're new to this. Use the shoulder blades. Integrating the shoulders is an important piece of this movement. It's not just a sort of an arm exercise. Okay, then we come up to standing again for our hinges. How your hips go back has got a lot to do with your hip mobility. The width of your feet can be changed as similar to a squat. There's different stances. You have to find the one that feels good for you and that you feel you can get back with the back being neutral. So as I come over into my hinge, I don't want to be rounded and flexed in my back, and I don't want to go the other way and be loose and into sort of extension. So priming with lots of these, body weight, you can get your hips back, and then when you do start to get the weight, you can elevate it on some magazines or a box, or just know that you don't have to lift all the way from the floor every time. Playing with the width of your feet is a good idea, because you might find that it's a little easier for you to get those hips back more when you have wider stance. And when that happens, you use more of your hips to get out of the stance. Okay, let's finish today with two more 30-second-ish movements with our drop squats and our extension reaches. Nice light landing. Remember, you can just bounce the knees. Think of that elasticity through your feet, or just catch and drop. You guys have done great today. Almost there. And extension reaches. Here we go. Lifting up, reaching the fingertips, looking up, come back down. "15 more seconds. As I close the class today, I'll remind you that strength comes in all forms. So not just being strong physically, but having the strength to do things like getting enough sleep, manage your stress properly, and eat well. Nutrition, having the strength to buy good groceries and eat lots of fruits and vegetables and good protein sources. So thank you so much for joining me and building a stronger version of yourself with the group. We'll see you again next week.